we go. Welcome to August 27th meeting of Substrate. Um, our first item up is versioning and breaking changes in Substrate Go.
Yes, I put that there. I think I was talking to Victor about this earlier, and also Yev, who I don't know if you guys know, but he's like one of our guys who's like been working with me. We've been working a lot on the like Substrate Go, like adding new methods to the interface and stuff to represent all the new like relations that we haven't added. It seems like every time we add one, we have to update the interface, which is a breaking change, which means we have to bump the version number, which is what like changes the import and stuff. So we're wondering like, I guess Yev and I were wondering mostly, is it worth doing that? Like, is there another workflow?
You could avoid calling things breaking changes would be one approach.
Yeah.
Another approach would be to put things in a branch, and then switch to the branch all at once. And then that way you would have less actual major version changes at the cost of slower updates. Those are things I can think of offhand. I guess the third thing would be to switch to where we were is actually to create a new repository with a new versioning, which I mean that would be and then I don't think there's a convenient time to do that, but I mean we could do that as well.
Or like I was just thinking like policy wise is it possible to make, even if it's a breaking change, like not the major version bump, like a minor version bump or something, or is that like against the convention and stuff?
I think it's the thing we're using, whatever that versioning tool is just doing
conventional commits tool thing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So if you put breaking changes in the comment, it does the bump.
Okay.
So if you didn't put breaking changes in the comment, then it won't do it. So that was David's first suggestion.
Right. So okay, so even if it is technically breaking, if you just don't call it breaking in the commit message or in the PR, then it'll still go through. Is that okay to do, or do we want to be strict about that?
I think it's okay to be less strict about what you call a breaking change. I mean, if it's something that's sort of,
I'm inclined to do the other thing if you're up for doing the work, which is start a new repo and just archive this one.
Okay.
So it has a new coordinate and update it so that it stays under 1.0. Because the breaking change thing bumps by 0.1 until you hit 1.0.
Oh, so you can't go like 0.1, 0.0 or 0.1, 0.11, or sorry, 0.0.
But you can if you change either configuration. So like if you look at the Substrate main repo, that's how it works.
Yeah.
The Substrate Go one was never configured to do that, and that's why it went past 1.0. So if we just create a new repo, get conventional commit set up the same way as it's set up in Substrate, the core repo, then the breaking changes will just stay with under 1 until we decide to push them up. It's not the most exciting work, clearly, but it'd be a one-time effort, and then it would be like, okay, when we decide we want it to be 1.0 and want to be more strict about these things, great.
Okay.
I feel like that is better hygiene for people who might come along and start to try to want to use the project.
They're gonna have to change it once every time that the major version changes or changing the repos. Not this bad.
It's once instead of multiple times, but it's probably more work that one time.
Right. It makes sense to me.
I think that if you guys can't stomach it, doing the breaking change, just not putting breaking changes in,
Mhm.
like putting in like kind of brokey changes or something, so that it doesn't match the text string or whatever the hell it is. Would be okay for things that are, you know, smaller breaking changes, if you will.
Mhm.
Yeah. So I think I'm not gonna stand on a high horse and say that you have to do the repo thing. Just
Yeah, I mean, if
seems
I was
like
going
it'd
to
be
make
better.
a determination about what breaking would be, I mean, breaking is like, oh, I changed it so this sort the correctness or something might change. Like I changed the way it does things internally. I mean, you
Well,
changing this,
if you change the method right to require an extra argument, for example,
I wouldn't say that's
which I assume
breaking.
you're doing.
I would say that would be, that's sort of like obvious. It's not, and I guess it's whether it's an expected or unexpected breaking change. Like if I change it so that it doesn't add and it removes instead, it's called the add method. That's an unexpected breaking change of behavior change that people might not know about. But the signature change, okay, oh, my code doesn't compile because the signature is different. Okay, well, that's easy enough to figure out.
Right, like breaking at like compile time versus that breaking at like runtime or something when you hit the method.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, my only other thought would be is if we decide to say to not use version numbers the way that people expect them to be used, I think it'd be worth putting a comment on the GitHub README that says, hey, just so you know, even though the project appears to be beyond 1.0, we don't follow whatever standard convention, and there may be breaking changes between minor versions because the thing's not stable. Just something that says like, hey, don't be surprised if you're like, why did this update and it's breaking? Like,
right. Yeah, I feel like I agree with like the new repo with new versioning part. I feel like maybe the next time we have to make a breaking one, we might as well just bite the bullet and do that.
Yeah, and yeah, I mean, I feel like it's not that much work. I mean, I think that the main work is making sure that the build systems, all the automated build stuff still works, which obviously the PR stuff should just work with the GitHub workflows, whatever, GitHub actions. But there may be keys that we need to move over to the new repo, because generally speaking, like the deployment keys are repo localized.
Right.
Yeah, I'm guessing that's and then figuring out how it is that the core repo doesn't have this problem, right? And this one does. Like there's some configuration with the plugin, or I think that in the core repo there's more code. There's more like building code.
And it was
Like
also
working around
somebody
this.
doing a manual release, I think, at the time, which actually also caused it. So it may be that the manual flow is broken and the regular flow is fine.
That's all I wanted to ask there. I guess the second thing I put down too was that, so I just saw that I think like Alex Bianchi had a PR up for like a protobuf visitor pattern in Substrate.go, or sorry, yeah, Substrate Go. I think we've implemented like another visitor pattern internally, like at the company, which does mutate each relation itself. Like you can pass in a function, I believe, to mutate the relation. So I'm wondering, I think like Yev implemented it and he was kind of wanted to, I guess like release it open source as well. But with this two patterns, I kind of want to get you guys' opinions on like what, like should we kill this existing one? Should we pull in the new one? Should we have two visitors?
Let me just get some clarification here. It sounds like one person has proposed a visitor pattern. You guys have one internally that you'd like to propose, but you haven't yet proposed it.
Yeah.
I mean, my inclination would be to start with just get it proposed.
Okay.
Because then there can be a discussion about the two things, right?
Okay.
Like it doesn't have to be offensive to be like, hey, your proposal pushed us to make the proposal we were planning on doing. Like it's not like that's not nothing wrong with that. And then we could discuss the two of them and be like, oh, can we combine them into one that is takes advantage of the benefits of both or whatever. I don't know. But yeah, I'd say it's hard to have anybody respond when there's one hidden and one that isn't.
Right.
Like, yeah. And I understand the whole like, yeah, it's just I didn't have it on my list. It's the most important thing to get done because it works internally.
Yeah.
And whatnot.
Yeah, I think it's like
so, but I'd say like, yeah, it's because it's hard to say like, hey, don't take this commit because we have something else coming along that you haven't seen.
Yeah.
That's kind of annoying for people.
Yeah. I mean, like for that pull request, I took a look at it. It seems like Alex hasn't been able to work on it since then. So no rush to merge that one either.
Just to clarify, so there's Boshin, you're at Datadog as well, right?
Yeah.
So there's two competing visitors, both from Datadog. Just to clarify.
Yeah, and I just found out both are in Substrate. Well, work with the protobuf relations directly, and both are in Golang.
That's cool. It's a big company, it's all good.
Yeah. But clearly there is a need for it, so
yeah, clear. Yeah, exactly. Like this is the way you want features to arrive, is that people build them multiple places multiple times. Yeah. I was going to ask actually on that point, just briefly. I put a link in the comments from the Opaque API. So in the comments from the last call, I was trying to remember something and I couldn't quite remember about the protobuf options. And so if you look down below, you'll see like, if you see where my cursor is, if I don't know if you can see, there's this link to Opaque API. This was the thing that I was bringing up before when we were talking about, developing, changing, whatnot, is that there's now an Opaque API available for protobuf Go, the same way that the Java one works. And so when you're thinking about making changes, you may want to think about whether it makes sense to take advantage of this. Now, as I understand it, you could generate both sets of code at the same time. So it wouldn't be like you say, "Oh, switch everything over to the Opaque API all at once" or something. But it's something to think about when you're thinking about working with the protobuf objects, etc. Yeah, if you like the the Java APIs for protobuf more than the Go ones, I think that this pattern that follows that pattern.
Oh, I see. So this is like you can define your protobuf stuff, and then you can run the compile thing twice, or with the two options, either with the Opaque or with the previous.
Yeah, I think that's how it would work. Yeah.
Oh, and it has setters and getters for basically all the Opaque stuff.
Yeah. So basically, yeah, all the struct fields are hidden, and you have getters and setters. And I don't know if it's builder or not. I actually don't remember that. Yeah. Anyway, I'm not arguing for it. It seems like it would clean like some of the patterns where there's this weird sharing of stuff, and whatnot, I think would probably go away in this case.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm thinking about the Go library. I feel like I'll need to sleep on it just to wrap my head around.
Yeah. I'm not asking for feedback. I wanted to draw your attention. I know people looked at those old comments and saw that I put that link in there. So, yeah.
Today I learned.
Should we move to the documentation? Someone wants to use AI to generate lots of AI slop. Is that what that says?
Yeah, I put that there too. I was going through I guess the website, and I was like, oh, a lot of this seems out of date with like what we have in the repos. But I too lazy to like update it manually. I was like, do we have consent to use like AI and stuff, feed this stuff to AI, or is it like legal or whatever?
I would love it if AI would actually learn how to do Substrate. Um,
But yeah, I think it's totally fine.
Cool.
yeah, I think the one problem is that our source of truth isn't necessarily the protobufs themselves. So our general policy is that the documentation is supposedly the source of truth and not the protobufs. So as Weston's pointing out, it's important that knowing that there's a difference is probably more important, so that we can go and fix and have them align. But I don't think you can, if it's the source of truth, having the AI generate it seems risky.
Yeah, well, I think you like a lot of AI stuff, you're gonna have to review it.
Yeah.
Right. But I think that in terms of like, can you use AI to try to like improve the documentation? Yes. And I think that probably for a lot of things that would be very helpful. Like I think probably you give it the rules, which is that like if something's in the documentation and it's different from something that's in the protobuf, then flag that as a protobuf bug.
Yeah.
If something is in the protobuf that is not in the documentation, then like we've added a new field in the protobuf that we never actually put in the docs, right? Then I'd be like, okay, like let's add that new thing, and then you review that as a change. But yeah, I think precedence is important, but using it to like improve things like seems like great.
Cool. Yeah, I just wanted to get everybody's consent before like feeding the repos to some model or something.
No, don't worry. I'm sure that the models have already eaten the repo.
Somewhere.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Come on. I bet there's 5 million models that have already read all that stuff. Yeah. No, I have a hope. I'm working on some stuff in AI, and I'm hoping that once I'm working on the core problem of like how do you get AI to be more reliable for some kinds of problems, let's say.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd like to apply it to some of I think that there's a decent amount of work in Substrate that's not that interesting, but would be useful to be done. And I'm hoping that can be one of the test beds for the stuff that so it may seem like I'm not doing anything on AI on Substrate right now. And I think that's technically true. But I'm trying to build tools to make it so that we can do more stuff, right? Like as a project that I have been thinking about for some time is a Substrate first query optimizer. Something that really understands Substrate and can do query optimization highly efficiently. And so that's an example of a task that I'm looking to try to get AI to do. But as anybody who's worked with the AI tools knows, it's a delicate process. Maybe delicate's not the right word. Extraordinarily frustrating is probably a more apt description.
Yeah.
So tantalizing, and yet
when it spends 30 minutes on a prompt and fails, I'm like, all right, log off for the day.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Or it solves the problem, and then you look at it, and you're like, oh, you didn't solve the problem at all.
Yeah, you
can't just sub that out.
Yeah.
The tests passed because I deleted them.
Yeah.
I feel like it's the best and the worst of the developers. Anyway, all right. Next topic.
Yeah, everyone's favorite topic.
Oh, I thought if I just ignored that for 2 weeks, that someone would have solved it by now. No, didn't go away.
Well, this is the thing with committees: is to solve problems, everyone has to address them.
What's the ticket number again, or issue number?
Let me find it. Let's see.
What was the consensus last time we left off on it? It was like we should like put something in the files instead of it being the file name or the file path.
I mean, we didn't
Yeah,
exactly.
I think we can solve it now that
solve it.
Victor's not here. We can.
Well, I wrote up a proposal for something slightly different compared to what we were talking about the last time. I don't know if any of you guys saw it. I mean, it's not crazy different. Basically, the difference is just like to make the naming a little bit more consistent and just make sure that we're not kind of like having any sort of name clashes. We could just use reverse DNS just like they do in Java, basically. The idea being like we don't want to be in any way responsible for actually managing that namespaces are sort of reserved between different organizations. So it just seems like an easy and free way to kind of get that. And obviously the other way we could do that would be something like using the GitHub URLs, but that brings us back to kind of the whole other discussion of like, okay, then we're really tied to GitHub and we have to parse the string and how does versioning work and what happens if someone uses a different VCS service provider like Bitbucket or something. How does that affect things? So my thinking is we just do away with all of that. We use reverse DNS. We continue to punt off the versioning problem into the future. But I mentioned something about it in the doc that I wrote up. And basically, like we can later decide if it goes on at the end or is a different field in the protobuf. But let's at least not deal with that until the semantics of what versioning even means is really sorted out. And yeah, that's basically the whole spiel. Is there a chat feature in here? Or I can just drop it in the notes, actually.
Bottom right corner.
Okay. Here we go. So I started a new issue. Oh, someone already linked it. Okay. Because the issue itself is very different from I think where we started, which is just what should we call the default extensions to now? What should we call every extension? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm obviously not wed to this idea, but I think it's just a proposal and it has precedent. So we're not reinventing the wheel or anything.
Just to confirm, what it seems to be the case is that you wrote a long comment on the original ticket and said, I recommend X. And then you wrote this new document where you're recommending Y.
Yeah, well, the difference between recommending X and Y, but yes, that is what happened, is
okay,
in the original ticket.
it's not critical. I was like, wait, I just read something that said, yeah, I recommend something. And then I'm reading this and I'm like, wait, this is recommending something different. I assumed this was just recommending the same thing, but longer. Okay.
No, they are slightly different. And yeah, I should probably actually clarify that. But I sort of offline had a conversation with Wendell, who I'm not sure if you guys have met, who seemed concerned about this whole idea of name clashing, which I was kind of not addressing at all in the contribution I made in the original issue. It was sort of just like, let's just call it Substrate and say people don't use that, but we'll deal with kind of name collision issues later. But he was kind of encouraging to tackle this name collision issue early. And so the alteration is basically to just use this reverse DNS system to basically just make sure that names don't clash.
I feel like I knew a Wendell from back in the Hadoop days. Is it the same Wendell?
Okay, yeah, I wasn't sure if Wendell is a known person, but could be the same person. I'm not sure. I've only known Wendell now for the 2 months that I've been at this company. So yeah, Wacky Wendell.
I think that the one thing that stands out to me as strange is the location of the type.
Okay. You mean,
in terms
yeah,
of
that is a new part.
Just yeah,
that is different from the first proposal.
To me, conceptually speaking, like if it's substrate, like I would think you are in substrate type, and then the organizational stuff. I don't know, like that. I mean, it's not a big deal, but like, it's just like, I can, like, to me, it's like, oh, like this is two different namespaces. Dialects and extensions are just two different namespaces to me. Uh, and then
It seems
it's
totally
like who's
different.
dialect or who's, yeah. But I like, again, it's not a big one for me, but that would be one thing that I'd say. Yeah, because it's kind of like the like what is it, and then like whose is it or something.
Sure. Yeah. I can also see a case for not even having a type, but obviously they would all be in the same namespace, so that would just potentially result in some different issues down the line if for whatever reason someone names a dialect and an extension set the same thing.
Yeah, I mean the other question I have is just like, is any of the URN : substrate : needed?
Yeah. So that is a good point. And the only reason why I ultimately opted to keep it in is it felt like with the reverse DNS stuff, I was kind of comparing with the Java world, and I guess I just felt, I don't know if it's a grounded inclination, but an inclination to lean in even harder to just precedent. And precedent in this case was just like, this is a URN, so we can just link people to URNs, and things are only valid URNs if they have URN : at the beginning. That being said, this is in the set of things that I just don't particularly care about, as long as we just agree on something. So I'm perfectly happy to swap type with the actual reverse DNS name, and I'm perfectly happy to drop URN : substrate. Yeah. The only other point just to raise is I don't know how versioning is going to work in the future, but if we drop URN : substrate, we also might then take the position that you should never actually have to parse that string, which is fine. But then if we later decide that the way versioning should work is it should just be tacked on at the end of that string, then there is some implicit, very simple string parsing that you would have to do, but it's worth acknowledging. Or we would keep it as a separate field. That would be an option as well. But yeah.
The reverse DNS thing is optional, right? Like if something was offline, it just wouldn't make the check.
I'm sorry,
not
what
even
did
a
you say?
check. The reverse DNS part of it is like, who's actually making the DNS requests and at what time?
I mean, as of this point in time, it would be no requests actually made. It'd be more like just a way in a sort of loose agreement to say, like, don't step on my toes, like no one should be using the io.substrate domain because it's our domain.
Yeah, exactly. Like if you use your domain, then you can administer like conflicts.
Right. But like if I make up a domain, what happens?
Nothing happens.
But I mean, if it's a real domain that someone actually owns, I think that they should have precedent over that domain,
Right. So like, let's say I pick google.com, which is a real domain that someone owns. But I guess I don't understand.
Weston, have you worked in Java?
No, not in a long time.
Yeah. So like in Java, right? Most companies just by convention use their domain name for their packages, right? In the same way that you do when using, well, Go's different because it actually uses it as a reference. But in Java, people just use their own company names as the packages. It isn't enforced anywhere. You don't have to do it. And so, for example, Google often in their Java packages just fucking put Google. They don't put com.google. They don't do it like they just do their own thing. And there are actually a number of companies that do that, where they just say, you know what, I'm gonna ignore convention and just call it foo. Right. And that works as long as no one else uses foo as their package name.
I think I misunderstood. So by reverse DNS, we just mean com goes.
Yeah. Not
exactly.
reverse DNS, like the reverse domain name. There's no S.
Okay. Yeah, sorry, I thought someone was
Yes.
like making a reverse DNS lookup to say what's the IP address of this domain name, so they could then use that somehow to validate that it's correct. Okay.
Yeah.
This
No,
is just
no, no, no,
okay.
no.
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
It's
No, no.
inverted domain name syntax.
Yes, yes.
Got it. Yeah, no, I'm fine with that.
And does it have to be inverted?
Doesn't have to
It
be
does.
anything.
Yeah. I mean, it's our world, you know. But again, that was just me trying to follow convention of another system that does
So
this thing.
Is this
Yeah,
any different
yeah. I
than
think
what we
it's
had?
not spec. It's not spec. It's convention, right? I think that's the clarity there. Is that like the second thing is the qualifier, and we recommend that the qualifier be an inverted domain name, right? So I think that probably be maybe a way to update this is just to clarify that the convention is, hey, use your inverted domain name. You can put whatever string you want in there, but don't be surprised if you're going to create conflicts if you use something arbitrary like database, right? You could put database in there, but if someone else does database too, then you guys are going to have problems at some point.
Okay. So this is really no different than what we had before. We're just laying a convention on top of the deal.
Yeah, it's basically saying, hey, by convention, this is what we recommend people do.
Also, but just to recontextualize this problem on the whole, the one way it is different from what we had before, if we go through with this, is that we have one consistent name for our own extensions. Because the thing that prompted this issue in the first place is that the individual implementers of the Substrate spec in the different languages use different URLs to reference the extension files. So that was the original thing that was trying to be solved, and this will solve it while also, you know, adding a lot more information as per convention. So I know no one is enthused, but it sounds like there's at least from the the sense that I have that everyone's just okay with it, or it's just a question of whether we drop the URN colon substrate or not and swapping the type bit, and everyone will be sufficiently happy. Cool. You'll never have to hear about it again from me. So
And don't interpret it as lack of enthusiasm. I have a lot of enthusiasm that this problem is being solved. I just don't
yeah.
have a lot of strong feelings around particular direction.
Well, yeah, I mean, I have that same problem too, right? Like I want it solved, but I don't really care so much, which is sort of why my inclination is like, let's just find someone that solved the problem in whatever way seems easiest, and then just use almost that exactly with near zero modifications. So
All right, I added three comments, three short comments. They were the same ones that we talked about here. It's basically just maybe put kind before owner.
okay.
I updated it, so I called it owner as opposed to reverse DNS. And just said like maybe we should call out that the convention should be use something like an inverted domain name. And then just the question about whether we should drop the URN thing. And honestly, I hate repetition, but I don't really care.
Yeah, I mean, I don't care so much either. So I'm happy to drop it. I'm just making it aware that it may potentially introduce the string parsing situation if we decide to go that route.
You are a Java developer, right, Shop?
I'm sorry, what's that?
I said you are a Java developer, right?
I have been for many years. I have not touched Java in several years, but I did spend a solid few decades doing it. First time I worked on Java was 95, to give you some disgusting sense. No, 97, my bad.
When was the last time?
2022.
I was giving
2022.
you a hard time about hating repetition.
Yes. Oh, but hey, you notice I'm not working in Java anymore.
Well, I'm only working in Java now for the first time since college 5 years ago. So maybe this is why it's so front of mind for me as a way to solve this problem. But
yeah. So anyway, I think I'd say that on the 3 comments I posted there, if you guys can see them, I think I feel more strongly about the first and the third one and less strongly about the second one. Like, stop that.
yep, that sounds great. I will address them, and I'll probably have a PR open today or tomorrow to actually integrate this stuff into the documentation.
Cool.
Thank
Thanks for
you,
working
everyone.
on it and pushing it through.
Yeah. Of course. You know.
All right.
We got anything else on here?
Yeah, I added
Yeah.
names of variadic functions. Victor, we had a comment on the dialect PR about the names of the implementation, I guess the included implementations that a schema could have. It comes down to what the names of a function is. And I think what I have is the current definition, which is that the variadic arguments aren't included in the name of a function. So concat of string would be just concat without any arguments. Yeah, and I think that's the way it's currently defined, and so he was like, well, why didn't we include the argument when we could include the argument? But I think this is part of a larger change. And I guess how do we really want to handle variadic arguments? Like if we want to have concat star a string with a star after it to show that the string can be repeated, or yeah, I mean there's a or do we want
It's weird that we ignore it entirely, to me.
Yeah, I mean, at least that was my interpretation, and I could be wrong about the interpretation because we have lots of different documentation stuff. But I thought I was being consistent.
Yeah.
But
no, I mean my
changing it
expectation
for
would be is that it
1.0 to
just
make
shows
it
up once. Like that was what I thought it was like, if you have concat string, that it would be concat string.
okay.
No special indication that it's a variadic. Because 2 functions, one with variadic and one without variadic, would conflict.
But if I had
Right.
one that was, yeah, but that would be a conflict. So if I had a single, you want the conflict is why you're doing it. You want to not the unary version versus a variadic version would not.
Yeah, it'd be like if you think about like typical calling behavior, like how would you typically resolve that?
You would choose the one that wasn't variadic first.
Okay.
It would be my choice.
Yeah, fair answer. Yes. David would choose the one that's not variadic first. Okay, fair. But yeah, I mean, my expectation would be is it would be there. I don't think. Yeah, I don't think it is important. I mean, I don't have a strong opinion about this, but I don't think it's important to be able to support that scenario of having concat and concat underscore or concat single string and concat multi-string to be expressed in the same file. Right. Especially when we think about dialects, right? Where dialects themselves are saying like, well, the name of the function is in the substrate definition can be different than the name inside the system that you're actually working with. Yeah. So I don't know that it's well documented. I haven't done the research. So it could be very well that you're right that that's actually how it's documented. That we just don't include it. I would have expected the opposite,
Okay.
which is that we just include it once. We ignore the fact that the property of that argument is like when we try to come up with the signature, that we are looking at the types of all of the arguments, ignoring the properties of the arguments. Is the pattern that I had in my head.
Okay. I still think you're going to end up with multiples of having to make determinations between multiples of things when you're trying to figure things out. And you really aren't looking up by the name isn't really the thing that is you're doing in order to determine whether or not the signature is not what you're using when you're trying to determine which one to use. I mean, you're really looking at the name is with the associated arguments.
Oh yeah, I mean, when you're doing binding, I completely agree with you, right?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I'm not sure that the name
yeah.
difference is. Yeah, I guess the trick is only when you're trying to deal with the when you're trying to register them like we're doing here. Because in this case, we're just trying to point to a particular one. And that's not the way that you would do the binding necessarily in the code. Or when you got something from when you got a plan. So this is a new way of using functions where the names actually matter. So I guess we're adding restrictions.
So in the dialect, you refer to the functions with their signature?
We refer to them by what did I say?
Supported impulse, FP32, FP32.
Yeah, you're referring to the supported implementations. You're referring to the right-hand side. And so you need a way of describing the right-hand side easily by using the string, or you say, forget the string and let's put the actual implementation details, including the types, and then you don't have a problem.
Yeah.
And when I'm thinking about it, I'm sort of liking not using the names, even though it's going to make it more annoying to actually put these entries in here. So you would actually say, I want the variadic version of concat, or I want the single element version of concat. And
I'm being swayed. It makes sense now.
what was that?
Weston, you're very quiet.
Oh, I just said that I'm being swayed that variadic in the name makes sense. Are you trying to convince me of that, David? Or?
I am. I do think it makes. It's one of those things that it was like that I recoiled at when I first saw Substrate. And so yes, I do think the name would be in there, but then I could also be convinced that we should never be using the name as a key, and thus it doesn't really matter what it actually says in the name, and I should be using if I really care about the variadic parts, I should just say, I want a string and it's with a minimum one variadic in it, and just have those details exactly match.
Yeah, I mean, I think a variadic is similar to nullability. It's a property of an argument. And we don't put nullability in, right? Like you start going down this path of like, oh, let's put asterisk in, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which feels very much like the question mark that we have elsewhere for nullability. Yeah, I don't hold I don't hold either strongly, but I just like I'm just like I mean, there's a separate interesting question here, which is that this is the first place you're using signature fragments, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, if you were to put the concat back on and not be a fragment, it would still have the same problem.
Yeah, I was changing topics. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
I was just in general, like the fact that you're using the signatures, they're using signature like one of the things I think we've talked about before. I don't know how much everybody internalizes this the same way that I do, which is these are that they should never be parsed, right? And I know you're not parsing them here, right? But it feels closer to that realm, right? Where it's like, oh, here's a fragment that I'm going to compose later. Now that's basically what happens when you take the YAML file as well. So I get it, but I'm also like, interesting that like now there are these independent sub fragments that are now passing around. So anyway, but yeah, I think David, there's not anybody who's going to fight you one way or the other. I think that not having the argument altogether is confusing because that seems to suggest that there is no argument, especially like concat. There's like concat with no argument, and then you're like, wait, what the fuck, right? If I want to do concat of two arrays, like I'm
All
like
right,
I can't distinguish those.
I will definitely go and check to see what the current behavior is. If it's not included the periodic argument, I will look at adding the periodic argument. Definitely add it here. I don't think I really want to tackle completely, and this PR has got enough gunk in it, but I do think probably putting in a separate issue to figure out, how we want to deal with names versus exact matches somewhere like for 1.0 is probably something that would be useful. And I do tend to agree we don't want to be parsing these things, and we don't want to be throwing lots of junk. So it's probably, I am leaning more towards avoiding the use of the name. But then the question is, if we avoid the use of the name, what point is the name? That's why I want to punt this down the road a bit.
Yeah, I think that's fine. I mean, I think, yeah, I like it was an interesting work to even come up with the signature concept. Like, it's not elegant, right? It's like the opposite of elegant, right? It's hacked. It was kind of to try to resolve what was a very painful like implementation problem, not a like, hey, what's a nice way to solve this? Yes, exactly. Yes. So we should call it name mangling. Hey, that's a great idea. Then people would know you're not supposed to fucking try to figure out what the mangle is.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, we should call them function mangled names. Mangled function names. Yes. And depending on which substrate compiler you use, who knows?
Implementation hash.
Exactly. Anyway.
All right. I think that's it for that then.
Cool. Anybody want to talk about anything else?
I added one more thing. I think will be very simple.
Ben was just like, I don't want to get off this call. I'm just enjoying it too much.
Yeah. I hope that we go over. The last time we spoke, we just had, I think, consensus, and I just wanted to double check that everyone is cool with also putting the whatever we end up calling it, URI, URL name, or whatever, in the extension file itself. So it's declaring what it is to be called, and then everyone has to use it, and it's no longer a decision on the part of the implementer. Okay, cool. That was easy. Okay, now I'm done. You're free now.
All right, everybody. Have a good 2 weeks. See you soon.
All right.
Everyone.
Thanks.